Hello everyone, I'm Ankit and you're watching StudyIQ IS English channel. In our today's video, we are going to understand should the words socialist and secular remain or be removed from the preamble of the Indian Constitution. Let us start our today's discussion, and you know the drill. The notes of the session, they will be available on the Telegram channel ATS Live. What you need to do, go to the top right hand corner of your Telegram app, enter the words ATS Live and you will find the channel. Subscribe to it if you still haven't and download the notes. Alternatively, you can also scan the QR code. This will definitely take you to the channel, right? Let us start today's discussion by understanding why are we discussing the removal or remaining of these words from the preamble. Now, RSS General Secretary Mr. Dattatreya Hosabale, he has made a very strong pitch of conducting a discussion among the public, and this discussion should include whether the words socialist and secular, which were inserted into the preamble by a Constitutional Amendment Act, 42nd Amendment Act, should they remain or be removed from the preamble of India, right? So in this regard, we'll have a discussion. First, we'll try to understand the meaning of these words, why they were included in the first place, and what is the process of amending the preamble of the Constitution, right? So let us start our today's discussion first by understanding the word socialist that is there in the preamble of India. So if you look at the preamble of India on the left hand side, you can understand that it says, we the people of India having solemnly resolved to constitute India into a sovereign, socialist, secular, democratic republic and to secure all its citizens these many principles, right? Now, if you look at this preamble, the word socialist and secular, they were inserted from 42nd Amendment Act, which was an amendment made to the Constitution back in 1976. And why it is somewhat controversial? Because this Amendment Act was made particularly at the time when most of the opposition was behind the bars, because India was under national emergency at that time. But you have to understand, even before introduction of these two words, the Constitution of India provided for socialist content, and this was under the directive principles of state policy, which is mentioned in the part 4 of the Constitution. Now, this directive principles of state policies, DPSP, they provide that Indian state should take measures to ensure social and economic democracy in India. So, implicitly also, Constitution of India provided for socialist content without having to make it explicit. So when the word socialist was introduced after the 42nd Amendment Act, it made provisions of socialism more explicit in the Constitution of India. So this was the purpose why it was introduced in India. But you need to understand in our today's discussion that the word socialism here implies socialism in Indian context. Now, in Indian context, the socialism, it is referred to as the concept of democratic socialism, which exists in a democratic society like India. And this is very much different than the ideas of socialism that is prolonged or permitted in the communist countries like erstwhile USSR or China or Cuba. They follow the idea of socialism, which is known as communistic socialism, sometimes also referred to as state socialism. So in these countries, socialism means that all means of production and distribution, that is owned by state, not by private individual, and it abolishes the concept of private property. Now, this is applicable in socialist countries or in communist countries, but not in countries like India, because India, it favors the idea of democratic socialism that itself is derived from the concept of Fabian socialism. Now, socialism exists in different criterias, and the ideas of socialism, these are implemented in a society based on their context. And you have to understand, India is what? India is a democratic society. So in India, the word democratic socialism means that India favors not entirely state economy or not entirely private economy. Rather, India follows the principle of mixed economy. In a mixed economy, both public and private sectors coexist. So even at the time of independence, when India in terms of economic growth was very at a nascent stage, even then, although major means of production were owned by government, major sectors were dominated by PSUs, but India had many industries which belong to private individuals, and this role of private sector in Indian economy has progressed more. Today, major sectors are now owned by private companies, right? Even the Supreme Court of India has said that democratic socialism, in its concept, it wants to achieve few goals. These goals are to remove poverty, end poverty entirely, end ignorance of marginalized section of society, prevent diseases, and reduce the amount of inequality that exists in overall society. So going on by these philosophy, any government which comes to power, be it any political party, they would obviously have to follow these goals, which means following the idea of democratic socialism, right? So therefore, entry of the word socialism does not deny the idea of overall economic growth, or it permits the idea of removal of poverty, removal of ignorance, and eradication of inequality in India, right? Now, what you need to understand that the implementation of socialism in India was based on ideas, blending ideas of both Mahatma Gandhi as well as Karl Marx. But as India was a democratic country, therefore Gandhian socialism was a more dominated feature in the ideas of democratic socialism. Now going forward, we have seen, as I've already told you, that the private sector participation in economy is increasing, and this made a very large development due to new economic policy that was introduced in 1991. Now, after new economic policy was introduced, it followed the idea of liberalization, privatization, and globalization. So, in these days, we have seen that even the sectors that were earlier dominated by publicly owned companies like atomic energy, like space, now government wants to increase private sector participation in these countries. However, said that we can't say that socialism entirely needs to be eradicated from India. Therefore, the word socialism continues to exist. Now let us understand the word secularism in Indian context. Now the word secularism, like socialism, was also introduced based on 42nd Constitutional Amendment Act. But the Supreme Court has said, even though the word secularism was not mentioned before 1976, this did not make India not a secular country, because India, or Indian constitution particularly, had many features that promoted the idea that India was a secular state. For example, if you look at the constitution, particularly part 3rd, that is fundamental rights, there article 25, 26, 27 and 28 exist, and this provides citizens of India the fundamental right to freedom of religion, which includes freedom of developing your own conscience towards religion, freedom to practice, preach and propagate your religion, freedom to get exempted from religious activities being subjected to taxation, freedom to managing your own religious affairs without the interference of government. So that is why Indian constitution provides for a secular state. So even without the word secularism, this did not mean that India ceased to be existing as a secular state, right? So that is why this was implicit in the constitution, and after it was added in the preamble, the word secularism, or the idea of secularism, was made more explicit. Now what you have to understand, that like socialism, secularism also has been blended in the form of Indian context, and India, unlike Western countries, follows the positive concept of secularism. Now you have to understand how secularism is followed in Western countries like France. In Western countries like France, state is entirely separated from religion, which means negative concept of secularism. Whereas India, it follows a positive concept of secularism, which means all religions in our country have the same status and they are equally supported by the state. And many experts have called this concept as a principal distance method of secularism. Now, in essence, this positive concept of secularism, it means that state, it protects all religion equally, it maintains neutrality towards religion and maintains impartiality towards all religion, and state as a such does not hold any religion as a state religion. So that is why you'll hear Pakistan is what? Pakistan is Islamic Republic of Pakistan, but India is just a Republic of India. India is not a Hindu republic, India is not a Islamic republic, because India follows secularism and Indian state does not prescribe any religion as a state religion, right? So therefore you need to understand, but India's positive concept of secularism also comes with many benefits. First, state can intervene in any religion. Suppose any religion provision, it violates your fundamental rights. As we have seen in many cases, suppose when government or Supreme Court invalidated the practice of triple talaq, it essentially permitted the idea that women should also have their fundamental rights. Similarly, when women were prohibited to enter into Sabrimala temple for a particular age, it violated the fundamental rights of women because it violated the provisions of equality mentioned in fundamental rights. Therefore, government and Supreme Court allowed women to enter sanctum sanctorum of Sabrimala temple because denying them the right to enter the temple would have violated their fundamental rights. So this all has been allowed in what is known as positive concept of secularism. Government can intervene, state can intervene, but only in those cases where it violates your fundamental rights, right? Now let us understand what Supreme Court has to say about these two provisions. Now in 2020, slew of petitions were made into Supreme Court asking them whether addition of these two words in preamble was constitutional or not, and Supreme Court gave a judgment last year in 2024. It said that India has come to interpret these terms in their own context, both secularism as well as socialism. For example, secularism in India, here state neither supports any religion nor it penalizes any profession or practice of any religion, which means India follows what? A positive concept of secularism, which I've already told you is very different than negative concept of secularism which are followed in countries like France, right? So therefore, secularism has been adopted in Indian concept or Indian context, allowing the state to intervene in case it violates your fundamental rights. Similarly, even the word socialism have come to be evolved in a unique Indian context, which means socialism in India promotes principles of economic and social justice, where state can ensure that no citizen in India is disadvantaged due to their economic or social circumstances. And this concept of socialism in India does not deny existence of private sector, because many private sector companies, particularly IT companies, they have played a very important role in promoting economic and social development of people. Many people from rural background, from disadvantaged section, they have gotten their employment in these private companies and have improved their social and economic standing. And this has been done due to mixed economy, which favors existence of both public sector and private sectors coexistensively, right? So this is what both of these concepts have come to be interpreted in Indian concept and hence permissible in Indian constitution. Now let us understand whether or not can we amend preamble or not. Now this question was posed to Supreme Court in the case that was Keshwananda Bharti case, where many petitioners have highlighted that you can't amend the preamble using Article 368. Why? According to these petitioners, first of all, preamble was not a part of constitution, hence it can't have been amended. But you know what Supreme Court said in Keshwananda Bharti said? It said that the preamble is indeed a part of constitution, and preamble can't be amended, or sorry, it can be amended provided that you don't change the basic features of the preamble, because if you change the basic features of the preamble, it will violate what is known as the doctrine of basic structure, right? So therefore, the current position is that Parliament can amend the preamble, but it can't make changes to the basic features of the preamble, because it will violate the doctrine of basic structure. While doing so, Supreme Court also made what is known as purposive interpretation of the preamble. Supreme Court said that preambles was finalized by Constituent Assembly after they were done finalizing the each and every provisions of the Constitution, and the purpose of making a preamble was to summarize each and every aspect of the Constitution in a particular manner. So suppose if you allow for amendment of Constitution but you prohibit amendment of preamble, it would lead to non-consistency between provisions of the Constitution and the provisions of preamble. That is why you have to allow amendment of both, because otherwise the harmony between these two provisions will cease to exist. Therefore, highlighting purposive interpretation, amendment of preamble is permissible by the Constitution. Now the next question is, how many times has preamble been amended up till now? The answer is only one time. Preamble was amended only one time using 42nd Constitutional Amendment Act, where 3 words were inserted. Socialist was inserted, secular word was inserted, and in addition to that, integrity was also inserted. And this amendment has been held valid by Supreme Court in many instances, because the amendment, although it was done during the time of emergency, but it followed rules and procedures that have been meant for amendment of the Constitution, right? Now, before providing you the practice question, I have something I wanted to let you know. Now we discuss preamble only because this preamble is in news. But what about other important concepts of the constitution? How does preamble is in line with fundamental rights or DPSP? All of this is explained to you in great detail in the resolution batches. Resolution batches, we just don't deal with polity. We deal with other important subjects like economy, like history, like geography, right? And you still have time to take admissions for the 2026 batch, which right now is available at a discounted rate. Now, based on many queries from the students that were posed to us, we assume that people wanted this discount to continue. So we have decided to continue this discount, but this will continue only up till 30th of June. So you have until 30th of June to take admissions to these courses, right? What you need to do, go to our website and you'll be provided with two options. First is a morning batch for 2026. This is for students who are looking to give exams next year in 2026. But if you plan to give exams later year in 2027 and 28, you have an option to take admissions in the long-term evening batch. Now, both of the features of these batches remain the same. The only differences between the two is the duration of the courses, right? So to take admissions to either one of these batches, what you need to do, go to our StudyIQ's website. This is the website that will open. You'll be needing to create an account here first, which you can do so by simply logging in with your mobile number, right? Once you're done with the logging in part, select all language and click on English. Once you click on English, obviously, you'll have two options and it depends upon when you want to give exam. Suppose for argument's sake, if you're looking to give exams next year in 2026, then click on Resolution Morning Batch 2026. Right now, it says that the course is available at 31,999, but I'll tell you a way where you can get admissions to these courses at a discounted rate. How to get discounts? There is a code flashing on the bottom half of the screen, right? It says use the code ATS Live to get maximum discounts, right? You have to use that code, and that code is applicable not just to this course, but to all courses offered on our platform, right? Click on buy now here first. To apply the code, click on add promo code here. Once you're clicking, write ATS Live in this section and click apply. As soon as you click apply, you'll realize the discount of 7,000 rupees is now applied and the course is now available at how much? 24,999. And the benefits of these courses are many. Obviously, you'll get live classes, lecture notes, one-to-one mentorship, test series, etc. Obviously, in addition to that, you also get a scholarship. Suppose if you clear prelims, your entire course fees that you're paying right now, that is 25,000, will be refunded back to you. Yes, your entire course fees will be refunded. Similarly, you'll also be getting guidance from the faculties. You'll be provided a selection box, which includes 20 books for all the subjects as well as PYQs. And we are also providing you with a prelims residential program. Suppose if you're in the top 10% of performing students in your batches, few months before prelims, you'll be brought to Delhi and every of your expenses, food related, studies related, lodging related, will be taken care of by StudyIQ. So you'll be kept in an environment that promotes competition, that promotes excellence, and it will help you qualify prelims. And once you qualify prelims, you'll be getting your entire course fees refunded. Not just that, before mains also, you'll be kept in Delhi, and similar to prelims residential program, your entire expenses will be taken care of by StudyIQ. And these benefits are available only in our resolution batches. If you still have any doubt, please feel free to reach out us on 9240231070. And once you're taking the admission, do not forget to use the code ATS Live. Why? Because it helps you get 7,000 rupees off, which is a very important money, might be yours or your parents', right? So please save them using the ATS code, ATS Live code. Okay. So this is what I wanted to tell you. Now let us get back to our discussion. This is the practice question that appeared in prelims 2021. You can solve this question. What was the exact constitution status of India as on 26th January 1950, and this was the date when Indian Constitution came into force. Do let me know the correct answer in the comment section, and if you answer it correctly, I'll give your comments a thumbs up so that you'll know your answer is right. Okay, and the notes, obviously these will be made available as soon as this session ends on the Telegram channel ATS Live. Go to the channel, subscribe it if you still haven't, and download the notes. So this is all from my side. We'll see each other again. Please have a very good night.